Called Tequila with Tripti, not Tequila drinking Tripti.
I'm constantly questioning relevance.
Okay, can we up here, along with a larger community, build export-driven brands?
It's the service and the food that people come back for. Like if you don't have that, none of the storytelling, none of the branding matters.
It's important that everybody learns to drink better while we are making better booze.
Hi everyone, today we have something different for you. I'm Janvi Javeri.
And I am Anuj Kejriwal.
And we are the co-hosts of the Breaking Uneven podcast. Through this podcast, we have been unraveling the raw and unfiltered stories of entrepreneurs, showcasing their highs, lows, and everything in between. We like to shed light on the trials and triumph of building a business from the ground up.
And recently we hosted a panel discussion at Jodie's. The food and beverage industry in Mumbai is notorious for numerous failures and losses. There are some that have broken out of this trend and found success. And so we invited a few of these folks to tell us their tales of triumph. From careers to entrepreneurship, from coffee to sweets to dining, from 0 to 100. We want to know how many times they failed, why they failed, and what changed for them. So without further ado, here's the panel discussion.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Tripti, and I'm really excited to be here today with a panel of Rahuls and one Samir. I'm the only Anjali today. So I'm just going to introduce you to my industry friends. Rahul number 1, Rahul Reddy, who got the entire city high on coffee with his brand Subko. Rahul number 2, Rahul Mehra, who got the entire country high on craft alcohol with his brand Stranger and Sons, Short Story, and his new acquisition Swami. Rahul number 3, Rahul Akerkar, who introduced the concept of standalone fine dining in the city and is now the creative and culinary director at Aditya Birla New Age Hospitality. And his amazing brand Old, in case you haven't been there. Samir Seth, the only black sheep in this panel of Rahuls, who gave Indian food and mithai a glam makeover with his brands Bombay Canteen, O Pedro, Bombay Sweet Shop, Papa's, and the coolest cafe Veronica's, and of course, Enthu Cutlet. Hello everyone, are you ready? You look too serious after so many tequilas. What? Okay, I'll find out. Please, guys, no surprises. I'm supposed to roast you all, not the other way around. So since my company, the name is Details, and it's all about storytelling and creating tales, I want to ask you all, do you feel that brands get lazy with storytelling after they, maybe they get success or they hit their numbers? And, I think, Samir, what do you feel about it?
Put on the spot.
Yeah.
I don't think brands get lazy, but I think what always ends up happening as time goes on, whether the founders or the people in charge, if they are not finding the same amount of energy from what they're doing, you do see that come out in all facets of the business, and storytelling and the brand building could be one of it. Because obviously being in the F&B business, one of the things that you need to be constantly cognizant about is not resting on your laurels. We always try to tell our teams that you're as good as the last meal or the last drink you serve someone, and you need to have that ethos sort of go through the entire business, that which includes sort of the storytelling part as well. So from my perspective, it's usually a symptom of something else going wrong rather than just, oh, I don't need to do this anymore.
So I work with a lot of brands, and I like all your brands I've felt, and I've always admired it. I'm a big fan of all your brands, by the way, and how you conduct your storytelling. But Rahul, I've seen that. Sorry, should I say Rahul number 1? Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3, and Samir. So Rahul number 1.
Thanks for the number.
You've been extremely particular with your storytelling and your brand building. I know you've also you're very particular about where you're placed, you're very particular about how you're positioned. And I feel like the more successful you'll get, the stronger you'll get with your storytelling as compared to other brands. And shockingly, y'all are also the most copied brands in the country. Like, everyone wants to be like copy one of your brands. So what do you feel like? What do you do differently?
Yeah, I mean, I think, first of all, thanks for having me. I feel like I'm the smallest person on this panel. Even, yeah, thank you guys. Honored to be here with you. Um, I think, yeah, I wouldn't deny that we've been extremely particular about how we've understood the notion of storytelling around the sector. Um, Specifically, I mean, for me, our format is a little bit more of a daytime and all day sort of a scenario, right? Given that coffee has been a focus, baked goods have been a focus, more recently chocolate. For that, I think building sort of some people may call community, other people may call a cult. What is the difference? I don't know. There's some intersectionality between all of that. I think that's not something that you can really, I mean, you can maybe strive for it, but you can't really plan for it. It's really something that has to be baked into the ethos of what you're trying to do, everything from the placement of the spaces, like you mentioned, what was not really done within and the intention of driving forward a certain result from a business angle at the beginning. I think those were things that sort of followed. So I think the ethos of it was to be very particular with the idea of traceability, the subcontinent, the terroir that we sort of originate our agricultural products from. We look at ourselves as sort of the last mile or the end of the value chain of a very long set of efforts. And so we try to be a brand that tells the story of the efforts that came before us and do it in a way that is doing justice to all of the rest of the value chain. So I think that for us, that's what's most important.
I wanted to ask you all that you started off with a particular story and the audience didn't like it, for example. Like it wasn't accepted or the concept wasn't accepted and you were very gung-ho about your concept. Would you change it just because people didn't like it? Like would you tweak your concept? Would you tweak the way you say your story because you feel like it's not accepted or the way that you thought people would?
I think that's an interesting question, but to me the answer is pretty clear. I think it's also a function in a way of where we are in time. If you asked me this question 20 years ago, I would have a different answer, I think. But I think if it's a question of at the end of the day, are you doing business or are you creating something that's like a passion play? At the end of the day, it is a business, and you do have to make things work. Would I change the concept? No, I would not. I would maybe change the way we told our story.
There's a really thin line between the way you tell your story and actual like business, like sometimes some things work and some things don't. So that's if suppose you had to change your concept entirely.
I mean, I have a really hard time because I think out of all of us here, I've been doing this the longest, and I think the one
Probably
thing
combined more than all of us.
Are you calling him
Combined,
old?
yeah.
Samir,
Combined,
are you
maybe.
calling him old?
Yes.
You just can't drink as much
Mature is
tequila.
the word.
Wanna bet? No, so for me, I mean, I'm constantly questioning relevance. I sit and I argue with my kids all the time. They say, "Dad, you should be doing it this way," and I said, "No, but that's not what people want." I said, "Yes, that's exactly what they want." And so this thing happens, and I do have to question myself, and I do have to take a step back and maybe re-look at the way I see things.
Of course. So just
If I
adding,
can ask, what
yeah.
would your answer 20 years ago be?
I think, a lot more clear. I mean, this is the thing AD and I have always fought over, in a way. For him, restauranting was all about the experience and, entertainment and everything else that went with it. And I used to say that I was very old fashioned and I felt, people fundamentally go to restaurants to eat. And so it all starts with the food and everything from there. Today, if you ask me the question, I may feel a little bit differently, So
So, adding to what you're saying, everyone's heard of the viral fever of going viral. I've actually seen brands setting up their business based on an international trend, and it shuts as quickly as it opens. You started the entire trend. You were a trendsetter where you started the entire trend of standalone, fine dining outside of five star. So, what do you feel? What do you feel that you do differently since then to now? And what if your business depended on one thing that you would say other than following a trend? Because I've not seen you following trends. I've seen you being a trendsetter. I've seen you being a trendsetter. You give Indian food and mithai a makeover. You got craft spirits which were made in India and not international brands. You made coffee cool. So what is it that makes your business different or successful? Like that one thing other than following a trend? Because like I said, every brand wants to copy all your brands. Everyone wants to copy it because all your brands are successful.
I don't know. I don't think it's that I've ever wanted to do things differently. I've just wanted to do what I felt was right. And I think that's sort of ties into the question about branding, also, because there's like a right way to do things, and there's a wrong way to do it, and it's not always quantifiable, and you can't always put a finger on it. I remember 3 weeks into opening Indigo, we had this guy come up to us and say the vastu in this place is all wrong, and I can fix it for you. And I said, you know what? I don't think so. I think it's really good. It feels good to me, and that's kind of what
Did the Vastu hamper anything?
Huh?
Was the Vastu guy right? Or did it hamper anything? Or
No,
not?
I think Indigo did pretty well over the years. So then I think okay. Yeah,
You
no.
were fine
So
without the Vastu.
so to me, it's like a right practice. It's like you do what you feel needs to be done, and I think everything else falls into place. I know it sounds a little vague, but
Does anyone else have any inputs on this?
Yeah, I think it's hard to deny the variable of timing. And when I say timing, I don't mean, timing with regards to a vague notion, more of the microcosm of the export driven sort of idea of food and beverage, or even retail in general, right, outside of F&B, where for the longest time I was talking to someone, a journalist the other day, who said, you know what, Rahul, the decades where I built my career in advertising and branding were all about local brands trying to create brands that were the Starbucks of India, the X of India, right? And I think like what Samir has done so beautifully, and Rahul, and I mean, we're just honestly just trying to kind of follow in their footsteps, is the sea change that's happening around. Okay, can we up here, along with a larger community, build export-driven brands that are recognizable around the world for being homegrown, and essentially creating a new avatar of the same kind of trend that maybe existed somewhere else or still exists somewhere else, but the DNA being wholly different. And I think that's something that brands like all of theirs have done extremely well.
Rahul, number two, do you have anything to say?
I think I do. I think it's important in the start to be very stubborn about how you want to build your brand, right? And to your question about how would you give in later in the day? I don't think it's laziness. I think it's important to understand that you start talking to a lot more people, right? And it's important for your brand to start relating to a lot more people. So it's does your brand dilute? No. If you set the culture within your team right, it doesn't. And I think that's paramount. You have to start talking to your team the way you would talk to your consumers and the way you would want them to talk to your consumers. So getting that brand storytelling right, getting that whole, I think we very early on, didn't we took a call that we don't want to be a Goa centric brand. We started in Goa, and I know there are like 30 brands now which are out of Goa, but I think a decision that we took is that we want to be an India recognized brand, right? And we want to be a brand for and from India for the rest of the world. So it was very important to get our storytelling very tight, right? And translate that culture into, whether it's Swami, whether it's Stranger and Sons, whether it's Shah Story, translate that culture into everyone in the team, that this is what this brand stands for. And this is what we would like, the consumers to feel when they consume this. So it's, I think being stubborn in the start is very important, and letting go eventually to what your teams also feel are, important for your brand's growth is equally important, right? Somewhere we all have to make money, I guess, right?
But if you all had to tell me one thing, like just one thing that your business depended on that you feel is that one factor. I know that it's never one factor, but if there was one thing you had to pick on, all four of y'all, what would it be?
Always listen to consumers, man.
Listen to consumers.
Always.
What would
There is no
your
other way.
tip be?
Stay committed to setting trends wherever we can rather than following them.
I have no idea.
The food. Your food.
Okay, my food.
Obsessive focus on the product, like it's the service and the food that people come back for. Like if you don't have that, none of the storytelling, none of the branding matters.
True. But Sameer, there's one question that I want to ask you specifically. I'm not roasting you, I promise.
I believe you.
I'm
You just have to pick
scared
a
of it
non-Rahul.
being the other way around now. I don't know what surprise is planned for me. But usually like Bombay Canteen is one of India's best restaurants. I'm very curious, and I've always been curious to know that why didn't you scale Bombay Canteen, but instead you diversified into O Pedro, which is a completely different concept, and then you started a D2C brand. You started a D2C brand like Bombay Sweet Shop, and then a sandwich and coffee shop like Veronica's, and then Papa's, and then even a magazine like Enthu Cutlet. So what was your mindset? Like, what were you thinking? You've managed to create 6 successful brands rather than scaling one brand and taking it pan city, pan India. You've been one of the only companies that successfully created 6 successful brands.
So the thinking really was when we opened Bombay Canteen, when Yash, me, and Chef Floyd got together to really just create a restaurant that we would all love. But when time came to grow, the ambition kind of kicked in. What was clear to us was 2 things. One, just putting a Bombay Canteen 10 kilometers away or in another city is not as easy as it sounds, because at the end of the day, people came for the space, the service, the food, all of the combination of it is what was magic. It wasn't just the name or one thing about that. And the second thing was this understanding that India is actually an amalgamation of many, many countries. We eat differently depending on where we go. We behave differently. Price consciousness is different. So it's just because on an Excel sheet it looks great that you can have like potentially 5 Bombay Canteens.
And I'm sure people were lining up for a franchise.
They were.
In every city in the country.
They were.
For
And
Bombay
the
Canteen.
thing is, I think it's as important to just be true to yourself. And honestly, we weren't interested in that. And I always say this, O Pedro came as a result of Hussein's ambition. He was raring to go. He was raring to wanting his own sort of kitchen. And the combination of the timing of that, I think Rahul was mentioning timing. Timing plays an interesting role in so many ways. And for us, it was finding that space, having someone on the team who was raring to do more. And that combination really worked for us. So at each stage, and then Bombay Sweet Shop came out of another thinking that we can't really, finding 4,000 square feet spaces in India is a pain in the ass.
I agree.
And moreover, like affording them and making sure teams are running them, etc., etc. So we thought like the consistency would be much better controlled if we created something from the ethos that we learned at Bombay Canteen, which was like reimagining Indian food. And we thought Indian sweets and mithai was a white space at that point.
But how were you competing with the Tiwaris of the world and the Sweet Bengals of the world?
We're not, but we're inspired by them.
You just
We're inspired
created your own.
Yeah. And the thinking was if Bombay Canteen could function in this market, so could something for the sweets category. And that's how that idea came across. And each brand has had a similar origin story for a reason for doing it. But now, honestly, sitting in 2024, I think, as Rahul was saying, 20 years ago, his answer would have been different. 5 years ago, my answer would be different. But today, we don't want to open more brands, but we want to focus on really making these more
These
strong and really robust.
Are you also planning to take them pan India or
I
internationally
think
like most
Bombay Sweet Shop for
successful-
sure. Rest, c'est la vie.
So Rahul, number 2. I have a question for you. Everyone finds it really cool to have, like, I mean, even when you're at a bar, you're like, I want a Don Julio, like you did right now. And everyone does, I want a Codigo, I want a Don Julio. How did you change that perception? Because I launch a lot of international brands and the craze is crazy. There are lines for weeks. But it's not the same for homegrown brands. How did you manage to build a successful homegrown brand and make it cool? It's in everyone's bar. It's in the bars that we visit and also in our home bars. So how did you manage that? And of course, your Perry Road Peru, which is my favorite. You need to give me a bottle after this.
It's out of stock, but I'll manage. I think it comes down to the three of us who started this, right? We wanted to maintain, we wanted to bring India on the world map, right? We were all observing how alcohol brands are built, and it's extremely difficult. What we noticed was that you might not be, as one of my partners really says, Vidur, you might not be judged by what biscuit you're having in the morning, right? But you'll definitely be judged at a bar if you're ordering something substandard, right? And I think getting onto that feeling, latching onto that emotion was really important for us with Stranger and Sons. We saw many other brands start before us, right? We did in the liquor space, in the
But
gin
you're the
space.
only one who's not managed to shut down and stay consistent.
Yeah, for now. Yeah. I think we're doing fine, right? And I think it's
Of course,
important
you're
to.
not doing
and I
fine.
think
You're
it's
doing
important
way
to-
more than fine.
Again, it comes down to the playbook, right? It was very important for us to. All of us come from different walks of life. It was very important for us to start putting a spirit on the world map that comes from India proudly. 5 years back, nobody heard of gins. Nobody heard of that there could be a gin from India that could command a higher price than Bombay Sapphire, which was the most established in India, or could command and not come from legacy, right? Just come, it's a new age startup. I think building that was a lot about how we are as personalities. It was important to start working on that emotion that everybody wants to have something exclusive. And everybody wants to have some level of pride associated with, hey, this is made in India and I'm proud to take it
So
outside.
it wasn't inspired by Narendra Modi's campaign of Made in India.
No, he got inspired by us.
Inspired by you. That's
Yeah, so
okay.
um,
Fine. Made in India. Jai Hind. Okay. Do you have anything to say about this, Rahul? Because you're competing with a Starbucks, a Pret. There are new international brands coming in every day for coffee. How
Yeah,
have
it's-
you managed to become this cool coffee space in India?
I don't know, cool's subjective, but I think it's funny the way that Rahul number 2
No, guys.
described.
When I said, where is Rahul at the bar, and all three of y'all came to me, he cannot use that again.
So no, it's funny because what Samir said and what Rahul said both resonate integrally to a lot of the things that ended up creating Subko, because although our brand stretches, unlike Samir's brands where they're fundamentally different brands, our brand does stretch across multiple spaces. But for those who may be familiar with our brand or have visited one of our cafes, each of the experiences we've developed are actually quite unique from one another. So I think from that context, we even name them differently. So you have, sort of Mary Lodge by Subko in Bandra. You have the Craftery, which is, thanks to Samir, actually, he recommended us to come in to the space next door to him. So we're neighbors in Baikala. In Colaba, we call it the Cacao Mill, and they're all fundamentally different concepts, although Subko becomes sort of an ecosystem. Now, the way that Rahul described his, the impetus really to create Stranger, I mean, I could have said the exact same thing, replace everything he said with coffee, and that would apply exactly to Subko. So it's quite interesting. And in fact, I think it's quite safe and honest to say that both of them in particular have been somewhat motivational forces in different contexts, from an ecosystem building point of view and positioning point of view for what we're trying to do in sort of bread, coffee, now chocolate. So no, yeah, I think that's what I meant by timing earlier. The timing being what you could call it, sort of geopolitical, economic, gastronomic. I think it's all kind of like intersection. There's an intersection happening, where I think the South Asian concepts in general are going through a huge evolution. And as someone who's sort of a diaspora Indian and grew up mostly outside, I think for me that was a big goal, was to be part of that repositioning really of the whole region, in our case through coffee and other allied products.
And now I'm going to ask you my favorite question, Sameer. What has the role of PR and marketing been to build your brand successfully? I'm very curious to know. I've always wanted to ask you this, but how important do you think PR and marketing is? Rahul, you don't answer this because you don't hire agencies. So you are not answering this question at all. Please support the agency.
I think we've been very fortunate to work with some amazing individuals and organizations through the years. And I always say it takes a village to sort of create not just a restaurant, but now Hunger Inc. has over 420 people working with them. We have 6 brands that we're running, and it's not possible to do it on your own. So being collaborative and being open to not knowing is the reason for really reaching out to people who know more. My co-founder Yash has this knives theory, which he
That sounds interesting.
yeah. So he's like, when you
Can I guess what it is before you say?
sure.
Is it that you actually kill people who don't deliver on your brand, the agencies that don't?
Sure, we can stick to that, or I can tell you about it.
You
Basically, when you're bootstrapping, when you're sort of going through the beginnings of it, a Swiss knife will do everything, right? But as you're growing and as you're needing to do things at scale, you need sharp knives to perform certain functions in certain parts of like whatever that makes you sort of really good at what you're doing. I think in the beginning for us, it was we needed to focus on service, and we needed to focus and service and hospitality, and food obviously is paramount. And everything else we could work with others who were really, really good at what they were doing. And slowly over a period of time, though we've had to sort of bring some of those sharp knives in, but we still continue to work with amazing collaborators across
I've
the board.
seen that and I really admire it. I'm a big fan.
And I think we are richer for that.
And I love how you worked with the same agencies and the same people since the start of your brand, because I feel like that's when you grow as a family. And I genuinely think I really respect that. I mean, you've seen good times, you've seen bad times in the pandemic, but like I've seen you working consistently with the same people, and that's amazing.
Thank you.
As a founder, because it speaks a lot about you personally.
Thank you.
So that's amazing. What do you all think of PR and marketing? And how has it evolved also? Because from an Indigo Collaba day to today, do you feel it's very different? Because my next question was to you, because I recently heard your podcast on influencers and also the fact that now, what do you think? Because everyone is a food critic on Instagram these days, and it really affects business because everyone wants to be in the cool, most Instagrammed hotspot, even if it's shit food, even if it's not the best place. There might be restaurants that are far superior. There's more effort. So, like, what do you think of this? Like the whole entire PR marketing landscape changing, and also the entire influencer critic culture. I'm sure you get a lot of that.
So when I got going in all this, I first started under the Over and then Indigo and such. There was no social media, and I think the way we interacted with our publics, it's a lot different. We, I think, relied a lot on word of mouth. We relied, I always maintained back in the day that advertising and promoting your brand like that for a restaurant was not the best way to do things. That if you're reduced to that level, then there's something inherently wrong with what you're doing. That was kind of the mindset. It's changed a lot now, of course. Everything is everybody's a critic immediately. I think now you need to learn more how not to react to
Just need to be stronger.
all the noise.
Yeah.
I think you learn to read between lines eventually. If you read a whole bunch of reviews where people are talking about the same thing, then I think it's fair to say that that's probably something that is going wrong
And
with
you
what
need
you're
to
doing,
change it,
right?
right?
And that you need to take a look at it. But if you have, classic story. We were. This is back in the day when before we opened Neil, which was our Indian
Of
restaurant
course.
at the Turf Club, and we got this review on TripAdvisor, I think it was. This person panned us, saying that they went there to eat and there were rats running around and all these things. And so I wrote to TripAdvisor and I said, this is bullshit. I'd really like you to take this down because it's very negative. They said, well, it's our policy that we don't do that, but you can respond to it. So I did, and I said, while we're all for critique and all that, we found it rather odd that he was able to have so much shit in his meal, considering we've been shut for 3 months renovating. So
Just one of your fans gone wrong. Did you not give them a free meal? Was it
no.
an influencer?
No.
Those didn't exist.
Actually, after
Those didn't exist?
we reopened, he wrote all these stellar reviews.
Wow.
It was.
Can you tell me?
It was
this
like
person's
more
name?
about I think self-preservation for him than anything else. So it's I don't know. It's you do need to naturally today everything's driven by Instagram and social media. But I'm still a little
Yes.
bit old-fashioned about that. So
That's why I asked you for your opinion on this. Rahul, I've known you for years now. Rahul, number one. I've always wanted to ask you. I've actually worked with brands who are going to open, and they've stalled their project for months, for years, because they've not found that perfect location. They've not found something that's accessible and also has parking. So, what made you choose the most offbeat locations in this city?
It's the first time I've ever been asked this question, actually.
Are you serious?
No, I'm kidding. That's
Okay.
probably one of the more common questions. But yeah, okay. So story with this is without getting into the nitty gritty of why exactly that home, for those of you who might have been to our space in Bandra West, is what you're referring to. Essentially, I mean, again, harkening back to what Rahul said about the sort of mission statement of Stranger, if you sort of think of Subko's mission statement at the time, I think whether or not Subko ever had the legs or will ever have the legs to take this concept or these products, these baked goods, these sort of super specialty coffees, the chocolates to another country. The idea was, if we were able to ever have the opportunity to do so, how would we design a space and an experience around these products that would be able to sort of be creating a renewal in the consumer's mind around the space. And for a renewal to happen, my theory was that there needed to be a strong element of risk and a strong element of discoverability in that process for the average person who wanted to seek out a different kind of experience or a new standard, depending on how you look at it. And for me, sort of this building called Mary Lodge.
Did you discover that when you were trying to find a lane with your girlfriend on a date?
No, it wasn't.
Are you
that.
sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. So yeah, the
It
funny.
felt like that.
No, but the funny part is.
And you've also created your top section that way.
Yeah, so
Lots of like date spots.
it's good place for that. That's
Yeah.
true. But actually, the funny part is, weirdly, we never considered a single other space for Subko. There was only one. So for me, it was the idea was we had to build in a strong layer of discoverability into that. And what's been really nice to see is a few years later, the neighborhood we're in, Ranwa Village, is now becoming this like really interesting space for different cafes. And I think that's sort of blooming into a bit of a cafe district in some way.
Yeah,
which is
your entire
nice.
lane, there's no parking.
Yeah. So I think
bad
that
for the people that stay there and
Stay
have to
there.
pass that.
we've tried really hard actually to build a strong relationship
No,
with the community there.
I'm joking.
But yeah, I mean,
I don't mind. I don't live in that lane. That's
It's had its
totally okay.
challenges.
And I enjoy coming to your place. Don't worry.
Thank you. Yeah, but I'd say, discoverability, trying to kind of we took a lot of risk in the kind of coffees we procured, the sort of levels of like fruit forward coffees, the sort of acidity,
So
the
basically,
tang in
your
the sourdough.
product was good enough to get people in.
The thesis was if we
Very
could redefine the sector, our product had to be so good that people would look for us no matter where we were.
That's great. Round number 2, I have a question for you. You've recently acquired Swami. Do you think because it's hard to create, especially in the spirit, in the spirit business, to create new products all the time, is brand acquisition the way to go to like build your brand? Do you think that's the way to go for people who are maybe looking at doing that, getting into the same segment?
Yeah, I mean, organic growth and inorganic growth go hand in hand. It's important to, I think it's very important to form your thesis right at the start, right? What do you want to be? It's, I think it's very, and we will acquire brands if we find them interesting. We will make our own brands when it makes sense. Like we did with Perry Road Peru with Sam, right? Like, we were in the lockdown.
That was one of the most amazing products.
No, we were in the lockdown.
I still have.
Right? We
a
just
couple
wanted to
of
be.
bottles.
I mean, both of us sitting on a call and wondering what should we do. Like, life seems to have come to a standstill, and we're like, let's make India's first bottled cocktail and let it be embedded in nostalgia, right? So when it makes sense to make new products, we do that. We made a Cascade gin recently, which drinks like an old fashioned. It's an awesome product, right? A lot of heart went into that. We acquired Swami. We acquired Countertop, which is a services business.
I didn't know that. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Clearly not updated.
For someone in PR?
Actually, Vidhur did tell me when I met him in Goa.
So we did that. We had a
Sorry, Vidhur, I forgot our conversation. It was one of those drunken nights.
we had a small hand in Countertop by itself has had a small hand in playing a role in uplifting the cocktail culture overall, which is one of the points of what we want to do with our beverage programs and our portfolio, right? It's important that everybody learns to drink better while we are making better booze. Right? It's very important. So I think that's something that is at the very core of what Third Eye does, and keep on doing that is as important as doing new things. So acquiring brands it's all immaterial, right? How you grow. I think it's important to be open to knowing that what makes sense at what point in time. Doesn't make sense to acquire a new brand to add to my portfolio. Doesn't make sense to build a new brand. And I think there's
When
no
you
right
already
answer.
have an existing
There's no
brand.
right answer, right? So,
Right.
but I think both are equally important.
Tripti and Tequila go hand in hand. So our next segment is going to be Tequila with Tripti. It's just another version of coffee with Karan. So the rules are very clear. Whatever your answer is, you need to have a shot. Yeah, great. Accepted. Should I move on to Rahul Reddy? Aside from Subko, what is your favorite coffee brand in the city? In order of preference: Blue Tokai, Third Wave, Bougie, Dope, and Veronica's.
You guys know what my answer is.
Of course.
No, huge kudos to Sam on that, by the way. Honestly, I'm not trying to be politically correct, but I think each of the brands has a very different offering. Each of them has a role to play in the ecosystem of making coffee into a
No, you just.
no, really, but I mean this
No,
into
don't
something,
be
into
diplomatic
something very.
because
I'm
it's
not being
being aired.
diplomatic. I'm
Just
saying into a
1,
very,
2, 3, 4, 5.
I'm not
Come
going to
on.
rank them.
You have to rank them, otherwise you have to have all 5 shots.
No, but
That's not the rule.
yeah, that's not the rule. I'll drink it. I'll drink it anyway.
If I'm not happy, then I can increase the number of shots, guys.
No, but I think it's very difficult to compare. I mean, third
Okay,
wave coffee
pick
is.
one. Pick one.
Uh,
Don't say Veronica's because I'll remove Veronica's from the.
Yeah, remove it.
Remove it, okay,
Here's
minus
here's what I'd say. I'd say if I'm removing Veronica's, I'd say without Blue Tokai coming into the picture back when it did in 2015, Subko could have never existed, and I've said that in many forums.
Okay, so
I
Blue
think,
Tokai is your number 1. Number 2?
I'm not going any further down this list.
There are just 3 more. Third wave, dope and bougie. Come on. Number 2. Okay, just tell me your number 2.
No, I think it's what I said. Veronica's, Blue Tokai, big fans of both.
Just because you're here, Samir.
You knew that before.
Actually, I did Veronica's right now. It's not on my sheet. I saw you and got inspired. To Rahul, number 2.
No, forever now R2.
Excuse me, please have your shot. No, and like a shot? No, of course not. No.
You're not gonna have one with me.
No, guys, tequila rules with Tripti are different. You just have to keep drinking. How many of the brands you've created have been the result of drunk decisions? Vidhur, do you want to answer that if he's around?
Yeah, all and zero.
All and zero.
Yeah, of course, because none of them. I think you always wake up from a hangover and you're like, am I serious about doing this? And then reality kicks in. But yeah, I think all.
All?
Yeah.
Okay, I assumed so. I've seen you socially alone. Finished it. Yeah, of course. Come on. To Rahul, number 3, what do you think is more crucial for a restaurant success? Ori being photographed outside your restaurant or the quality of the food?
Only one right answer.
I think it's how quickly your valets can bring the car.
That's it.
Shot?
A shot. I think I need a shot after that. Samir, do you believe chefs add more value to your business or do you add more value to your chefs that you work with? I've seen you building some of the biggest chefs in India.
I think it'll sound diplomatic, but
Don't
it goes
please,
both
don't
ways.
be, please guys.
Okay,
That's why there are tequila shots.
No one comes if the food's not good, so the chefs add more value.
Okay, that's still diplomatic.
How?
I like that.
It's the right answer.
Okay, Rahul Reddy. Do you think hiring an agency for PR and marketing is a worthwhile investment or is it a waste of money? I'm sitting right next to you, so answer carefully.
Of course, I think it's a worthwhile investment. I mean, in our case, it's not that we sort of started on a certain path and we're trying to kind of carve our own path and creating our own little studio of sorts, and we'll see how that evolves. We've also worked with external collaborators at times. I mean, across the board, videographers, photographers, etc. But you're the first person I will call when we make that switch. So, yeah, that's the right answer.
I think I need 10 shots after
Okay,
this.
thank you.
Where's your shot? Hello.
I have a question.
Samir, you didn't have your shot?
I did.
I
put
to
water.
ask you how.
Guys, it's called tequila with Tripti, not tequila drinking Tripti.
Or thinking.
Just say
Tripti. Okay, guys, you all got it. Rahul, hello? Okay, fine. Just because you insist. Okay, to Rahul Mehra, tell me your top 3 favorite homegrown gin brands apart from Stranger and Sons.
Gin?
Yeah, gin.
Gin brands?
Yeah,
Wow.
gin.
No, man, I don't have any. Just Stranger and Sons. Really?
No, you can't say that.
I'm not going to be diplomatic. You want me to be diplomatic, I'll be
So you're
diplomatic.
saying you're the best.
Of course.
Okay. 2 shots for
No
that.
two ways about it.
Okay,
I
done.
think everybody else is a far second. And that's the problem.
Okay. I think you need a shot.
I'm not
for
going to
that.
be like him, right? Third wave, Veronica.
Okay. In order of preference, Rahul, number 3. Americano, La Loca, Table, and Izumi. Please rank these rank these restaurants in order of preference.
Okay, if I want sushi, it's Izumi.
No, please. No.
Thanks, chef.
Listen, I'm a very mood-based eater. Okay, I think they're all great at restaurants.
The rest of us,
I mean, sorry.
the rest of us are animals. We all mood-based eaters.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, if it's pasta, I would say, let's say Americano or something like that. I mean, I wouldn't go to Izumi to do that. Clearly, am I slurring?
I think that tray of shots is yours.
Oh Christ!
No, you have to. Come on. 1, 2, 3, 4.
What were they? Izumi?
Americano, La Loca, Table, and Izumi. None of the owners are here.
Okay, Izumi.
And number 2, there's La Loca, Table, and Americano.
Americano, maybe. I don't know. Table La Loca. I've only eaten once at La Loca.
3 and 4 are going to watch the reels.
Yeah, I know. It's fine.
So both are at 3.
I'm just saying.
3
Those
is
are
Table,
the-
4 is La Loca.
Sorry,
No. I was just asking.
there's no 3 and 4, and there's no 1 and 2 either. They're all good restaurants.
Okay. 2
Depending
shots,
on when
please.
you want to have sushi.
Yeah, depending on when you want. Sameer, rank these brands in order of your preference. Indian Accent, Mask, Eka, and Trescent.
Indian accent, mask, Eka, and Trescent.
So I did your job for you. Perfect. Everyone please finish the shots on your, come on.
Finish? I don't know, but let's take some questions.
Where's the shot?
It's in here.
Smart.
I like the flavor of orange.
Thank you so much to our wonderful panelists for coming here tonight. Rahul Reddy, Rahul Mehra, Rahul Akirkar, Sameer Seth, and to our moderator Tripti Bhatia Gandhi.
We hope you enjoyed the discussion and let us know which industry we should cover next.